Welcome, friends, in this fifth reflection of our retreat, where we are going to talk about power. Remember, we are talking, or our theme is about vocation, the way of life, and we read our vocation with the mirror of the way of the cross, especially in this period of Lent. Now, our main text is Matthew chapter 4, verse 18 to 22, which talks of the vocation of the first four disciples. Now, we have done some series, and today we are talking about the third, seventh, and ninth stations, of which you know very well. Jesus falls down. And here we want to reflect about power. Let's go back to our text, verse 21. It says, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, who were in a boat with Zebedee, their father, and were mending their nets. My brethren, there is a lot of hard physical work of fishing that goes on in the lake. Especially in the time of Jesus, I know it must have been pretty difficult. And due to lack of technology, we know the fishing technology today. Nevertheless, the fisherman must first arrange the net or repair it, as Zebedee and his two sons and his workers were doing. Matthew chapter 4, verse 21, our text that we just read. After that, they have to throw the nets into the lake, like Simon and his brother Andrew did. And we read that in our text, Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. And then, after having worked all night, at dawn, they have to go and pull out the nets, only to start another work, sorting out the catch. Matthew chapter 13, verse 47 to 50 shows us this work. All this, the fisherman has to have enough strength. If not, nothing. He has to have power. He has to be invested with a certain power. Power is a capacity, a faculty, a possibility of doing something. Actually, power is a grace from God. So here is the divine promise, and I quote, I will send upon you what my Father has promised. Stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high. Luke chapter 24, verse 49. Luke 24, 49. Three stations of the way of the cross, namely third, seventh, and ninth, meditate on Jesus who falls under the weight of the cross. Now I was asking myself, why third? And we know very well the number three, the three stones that makes your pot when you are cooking stable. But third falling. Why seventh? We know the perfection, the seventh number, the seventh sacraments, and so forth. So I was just thinking on that line, why seventh? Jesus is falling. Why ninth? 3 multiplied by 3. Anyway, that is a reflection of another day. Now, when Jesus fell down, his face fell on the earth, on the soil, on the dust. And we know earth, soil, dust come from the Latin humus. Humus. And when I talk of humus, you should already think of humanity, think about humility. And so when his head touches humus, actually he humbles himself. This is the Son of God, the Almighty, humbling himself out of the weight of the wood of his cross. He experienced physical and moral suffering. Where was his strength, his power? But he resided in the will of his Father. That is where his strength comes from, doing the will of his Father. And I quote, "Then he said to them, My soul is sad unto death, but I have to do the will." Matthew chapter 26, verse 38. And speaking of his Father, he said, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to pass away without me drinking it, your will be done." Matthew chapter 26, verse 42. Matthew 26, 42. The search for his Father's will remained his fundamental choice, and this is where his strength comes from. And he will share this thirst to do God's will despite all suffering in our vocation. He shares it with us when he calls us. This is how he will teach his disciples to pray the Lord's Prayer, saying that your will may be done. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 to 13. Matthew 6, 9 to 13. There will be times when we fall on our path of following Christ. There will be time when you will fall down. You will fall down in following Christ. For example, the disciples could not cast out the evil spirit, and Jesus' response was a shock. "O unbelieving race, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I be with you?" Mark chapter 9, verse 15 to 24. We will fall morally, financially, physically, and even and mostly spiritually. We must therefore always rely on the will of God. It is the help of God, a spiritual guide, a spiritual director. Simon of Cyrene, to encourage us to forge ahead. To go all the way, we must therefore be invested with the power of the Most High. Luke chapter 1, verse 35. The Virgin Mary was invested with the power from the Most High. And this I know and I'm convinced is what made her go through the difficulties, even being at the foot of the cross of Jesus, his son, dying, but with a lot of serenity, with a lot of peace. My friend, the power of God also comes with others who are there to help you, to encourage you to carry the cross of your vocation until its final end, which is the heavenly Easter. What happens when you are in your distress, falling down? Think about it. Thank you very much for being with me in this reflection. Our sixth series of reflection will talk about personal meeting. This is the fourth station. Thank you and be blessed.